I remember he was up here. All done with it. Has been 39. He gets it. I just can't trust.
You know,
As soon as it's decided to check it.
Mayor, we're live on YouTube.
All right, if everyone could take your seat, we'll get started. Welcome to the North Logan City Council, August 3rd. Looks like we are all present today. We will begin with a pledge by Buzzy, after which I will say the opening prayer.
will the audience please rise and repeat after me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Heavenly Father, as we gather today as citizens of North Logan, we ask that thy blessing will be upon us as we consider the matters before us. We ask that thou would please bless us with thoughtfulness and with consideration as we consider these matters, and ask that thou would please bless us with wisdom and in doing that which is best for our valley. We ask that thou would please bless our city with the rain that we so greatly need, and ask that thou would please bless our community with peace. And we ask these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, being that this is a separate public hearing, separate from our regular city council meeting, we will jump straight into the first item, which is a public hearing regarding truth in taxation to receive input regarding a proposed property tax increase. Following the public hearing, approval of a resolution may be considered adopting the official 2023 fiscal year budget, which may include a property tax increase. Do I need to read the entirety of the agenda on this one?
You probably just need to adopt the agenda.
Okay, oh, yes. I would accept a motion to adopt today's agenda.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Buzzy,
Second.
second by Emily, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. All right, Alan, would you give us a breakdown of this issue?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Just going through each of these sections here, we'll just do a brief overview. Let me blow this up so people can see it. And again, this is just an overview of property taxes. And we did this a few months ago, but I think it's very important to go through this. Property taxes are very complex, just how they function. And so just looking at this, we'll go through each of these different sections, but I'll just brush over a lot of these things, but we can go in them further in detail in any way, or if there's questions that arise. But just to give you an overview, where your property taxes go. You're looking at that pie chart. That's the key. As you look at your property taxes, roughly 68% of those go to the school district, 13% goes to the city, 17% goes to the county, and then various other entities that you can see there. 16% used to go, 16% of the pie used to be North Logan's, and 13% was the county, but now they've flipped. So North Logan actually gets less of the pie each year. So jumping down through here, how are property taxes calculated? And we can go through this at length, but each year the the county goes out and they'll do a statistical adjustment. And then every 5 years, they do an actual appraisal of the properties throughout the county. As those property values increase, they can decrease, but normally they increase. And as those values increase, the rate decreases as well. And so you'll end up paying roughly the same amount on a given year. Again, this isn't a given year the last couple of years, but on a given year, you'll end up paying about the same amount on your property tax bill for because of that adjustment. I'll run through everything. We'll get to the end. One thing to keep in mind is that North Logan City, one of the questions that's come up often is, as property taxes go up or your assessment went up and you pay a little bit more? Keep in mind, North Logan City or the other entities that receive property tax receive the exact same dollar amount, or roughly, I think it's almost identical every year. We don't receive more. And so some people pay more, some people pay less throughout the entity or the city, but the city does not receive more. We receive the exact same dollar amount unless we go through the truth in taxation process to do an increase in the property taxes, or any of the entities do that. So Cache County School District, if they have to go through the truth in taxation process if they would like to receive an increase in property taxes. And so looking through this, a lot of people in North Logan, we've seen this, their property values and their home valuations, their statistical and their appraised valuations have gone very high the last few years, commensurate with market value. I mean, market value across the county is extremely high. The last few years, they've skyrocketed. And North Logan has seen that. And so those values are going up. Normally, the rate decreases, and so you pay about the same. However, it's very high, and we'll get to that in a minute. One thing I did want to go through is the past few years, as I mentioned, North Logan doesn't see an increase to our budget in property taxes. The only two ways we see an increase is through growth. So new people, new businesses moving into the community. That's one way. The other way is to do a property tax increase. So for the past 7 years, to look back, in 2015, North Logan City saw no increase. 2016, no increase. 17, no increase. 2018, North Logan increased by a rate of 2%. And so the North Logan City portion of that pie increased by 2%. For the average resident or for the average home in North Logan City, that increased $11 per year. There was a 5% increase in 2019, which was $34 per year, and a 9.9% increase in 2020, which was $18 per year for the average resident. North Logan hasn't had a tax increase for the past 2 years. This is projected for the next year, what we're talking about tonight. Any variation from those exact numbers would be due to an assessment that year. So if your property was assessed and your valuation skyrocketed, you might pay more in that given year. Or if your home is naturally just more valuable than that or less valuable, you wouldn't see those averages across there. The other thing that you might see is if Cache County or Cache County School District does an increase. If the Cache County School District does a very minor increase, it's a large dollar amount. Like a 1% increase from them is a very large amount to increase. So keep those things in mind about your total property tax bill. One thing that was brought to light this year is a flaw in the property tax policy. And this has come to light because of these extreme property tax increases in the market value. The market value has skyrocketed. And as the county has come in to assess those properties, they have to assess it within a certain percentage of the actual market value. So when they came in, they assessed property values in North Logan. They do sections of the county each year, and a portion of North Logan of homes that were built between 2006 and 2021 were appraised this year. North Logan City noticed that people were projected to receive a $200 to $600 increase, which is astronomical. I mean, that is off the charts. And what we're noticing is the value is going so high on the properties that as the certified rate is decreasing, it's not decreasing enough to balance that out. And also we're seeing some reduction in businesses and their property taxes, which have gone down. Some businesses, their assessed value. And so keeping those things in mind, that was very alarming to North Logan City. And so the mayor and other individuals we set up meetings with the county. The county was very gracious to come out and explain these items to us. They went through those items in detail to explain how the property taxes work. They noticed the flaw as well. And their hands basically tied at the county level. We worked with them. And they have to follow state law to the letter of the law, and they do. And so then we reached out to the state and the state reps. It's actually a state law passed down. And we tried to look into methods that, I mean, a $200 to $600 increase in a given year for any North Logan resident is just unacceptable in our minds. And so going through that, we tried to look at ways in which property tax law could change, and could there be caps? Could there be things to equalize these so that individuals aren't overly burdened in a given year? And so that was one thing we went over. Taken this year, so North Logan City is about $90,000 short of balancing this year. Keeping that in mind, looking down this is a chart up on the screen of different increases. Keeping in mind, if North Logan increases roughly 5% in property taxes, North Logan's general fund would receive about $69,000 more this year. The average resident in North Logan City would see an $17.85 per year increase in their property taxes. Like similarly, a 10% would be double that for most people. Just jumping down through here, common question is, if you're paying property taxes and if there's a proposed increase, where is that going? Where would that $18 to $36 per home increase be going? And looking through this in the past 6 years, North Logan's fire department, our budget has gone from $500,000 a year to just over $1 million. But keep in mind, along with that, and teaming up with Logan, who handles our fire services, they have some of the fastest response times in the entire state for that fire service. And so keeping those things in mind, police, so public safety are the two areas where these increases have gone in the past and are proposed for this year. 6 years ago, we were at $850,000 for our police budget. North Logan City's portion this year will be 1.8 million, 1,850,000. That's over $300,000 increase this year. But what we've seen the last few years is we were losing officers. In 2020, we were losing officers. In 2021, because of competition, and we weren't paying enough, and we couldn't keep the officers here. And so that is an adjustment to actually keep our police force who are doing well at this time. And then the third tier, kind of down the level, in order to fund the large increases in public safety, over $2 million in the past 6 years increase to those departments. The other departments have remained relatively flat. So streets, parks, community development, economic development, administrative, executive, cemetery, rec, all of those departments have remained flat in their demand on general fund. And so basically those increases are the focus there for fire and police, and for public safety, those critical departments that we have. And we need to fund and keep them funded at a level where we're not losing employees. Where these potential increases will not be used. This is very crucial. Looking at this, we've had several questions. Will these be used for new buildings? A city office and a library expansion has been brought up. Those will be paid for through donations. These property tax increases are not even in discussion, and obviously there's nothing left after we fund the other departments for these increases. So they will not be used that, and they will not be used for any solid waste or garbage services that have been brought up. Are my property taxes higher than everyone else's? The answer regarding the rate is a flat out no. North Logan, if you look at this chart below, is below average in their rate. Now keep in mind, this is the rate. We are below average, and we want to keep it that way forever. I mean, that is going to be the goal. But individuals who have very high property values, maybe above. And so that's one thing to keep in mind. If your property is valued, and when the county does the valuations, you could be high in that area. But the actual rate that North Logan City has is below average, and well below average in certain areas. So just an overview, goals in North Logan. And I won't go over this in extreme, but the overarching goal is to be very frugal. And this past city council, this current city council, everyone's been the same. North Logan City has done a very good job of keeping that rate below average. And how has that happened? A lot of collaboration. When we chip seal roads, we collaborate with the county. It's been a fabulous and fantastic opportunity for North Logan City, our streets department, to work with them to do several different maintenance projects throughout the city, which saves us a lot of money in the long run, where we don't have to replace roads because we're doing that. If you look at grants, North Logan's received over 9 million in the past 6-7 years. We received over 7 million in donations. Both of those are the highest in the county. And that's a key factor in keeping property taxes in that rate low. Another factor is economic development. The key to our city is the businesses, and businesses being healthy because they pay property taxes and sales taxes, which keep our rate low or relatively low compared to other cities. And so that is the overarching goal. The other goal is to continue working with state officials and county officials to see what we can do. They've been helpful in the past, and we want to see if we can reach out to them and see if there's anything possible that we can do to keep these $200 to $600 increases coming from the flaw in the property tax system from occurring. I skipped over several things probably pretty quickly, but the city council, we can discuss that in a minute after the property tax hearing.
Okay. Any quick points of clarification before we move on to the hearing? And then we'll have discussion after. Okay, we'll move on to the public hearing. I will read the rules for the public hearing. Before you begin, please state your name for the record. Please speak into the microphone so your comments can be recorded. Please limit your statements to 2 minutes. If you're speaking on behalf of others, you may ask the chairperson for more time. Please phrase your opinions in the form of statements, not questions. A public hearing is your opportunity to express your opinions to the city council. It is not a time to ask questions and expect dialogue between yourself and the council or city staff. Please address your comments to the council, not to the public. The council may ask questions about your comments in order for them to better understand you. In the future, note that if you have questions or need to discuss an issue, you may meet with the city council members or appropriate city staff member before the public hearing where dialogue can take place. You may provide a written statement as your input for a hearing. You may read your entire statement or summarize it. The two-minute limit still applies. You may provide a copy of a written statement to the city recorder. He will make copies for the city council, and the written statement will become part of the public record. However, the written submitted statement will not be included in the minutes of the meeting. My understanding is that we have not received any written submissions. So with that, I will open it up to the public hearing. Yeah.
So first of all, my name is Ryle Chu. I have a business here in North Logan and also have a home resident since 1999. So the first statement is, I really appreciate your work. I mean, this is thankless. And so when you're dealing with taxes, it's even more so. So the first thing, and it's kind of a question, but who represents North Logan when Cache County raises our valuations? Because I see it as North Logan doesn't get any more tax. I mean, in my bill, it went up $3, but the valuation of my property went up 21%. So still money out of my pocket, whether it goes to North Logan or Cache County. So if I can help in that, more than willing to go to the county, but I just didn't know what that representation is for North Logan City. The second thing I show where, based on the numbers that Alan presented, we've had a 25%. If this 10%, 9.9% goes through this year, that's 25% in 5 years. I would love to know the forecast of the next 5 years. Currently, the commercial property is my biggest concern. We're paying about $2,600 just to North Logan City per year. And if that's going to continue over the next 5 years, that's certainly going to affect rent or income on the property. So if there is a forecast, would love to see that, or figure out how we get to that forecast so we can plan for the next 5 years. And that covers those two concerns.
Okay, and we'll probably address some of these questions after the meeting. I'm making notes, not after the meeting, after all the comments are concluded. So we'll, so I'm making notes, on things to talk about. Thanks, Mr. Chu.
My name's Tom Hess. I've lived in North Logan for 19 years. I live on 815 East, 2950 North. From 2017 to now, my taxes have increased over $600. And they're saying my house is worth $385,000, which it's built in 1986. There's no way. And that big of a jump, it's gonna go up to $76 more if it gets increased. I'm on a fixed income. I can't raise that much every year. Ever since I've been here, it's been raising anywhere from $20 to $40 every year. It's never been the same. And plus, I'm also paying on the Hyde Park City Cemetery, which is not helping me either. We need to get that off of there. It would help. That's all I have.
Thanks, Mr. Hess.
My name is Cindy Beeston, and I'm abdicating my time for the Fife.
Good evening. My name is Sterling Fife. Was there anything else you wanted to know? We're good? Okay.
Is she giving her time to you? Okay,
Yes,
okay.
thank you. There's just a couple of things I wanted to address. Appreciate Mr. Luce's assessment of the rate and how it relates to property taxes. The real hero, of course, of decreased property rate, of tax rates is increased property values. It's interesting that we would talk about changing the law when all we need to do is not prop the rate up as we have been doing. You don't have to change the law to get the rate to the amount to go down. You just have to stop propping the rate up. That's the choice the city's made. So it's the term is called holding the rate. And although I do appreciate that the rate has gone down 20%, only exception I might have with your comments is my math says that the budget has gone up 35% in the last 5 years to North Logan City, from 1.4 to 1.54, which is 400 grand, which is 35%. So 20% of the 55% property value increase went to, 20% went to us, the other 35 went to North Logan City. And if you want the rate to, if you want the value to go down, you just don't, again, prop the rate up. For me, I need to take a look at the sniff test here. And I don't have any other way to say it because I don't really know all of the ins and outs of city management. But we're asking for $180,000 increase this year, which is the biggest increase in the 25 years that I can see on record in North Logan history. That's a big increase. It's 180 grand more. Not only that, it's $250,000 more than it takes to run Smithfield, $500,000 more than it takes to run Providence, $750,000 more to run than it takes to run Nibley, $1 million more than it takes to run Hyde Park. And that makes us, north of Ogden, the most healthily funded town this side of Pocatello. I don't know that, for me, that doesn't sniff out well. There's also, I can see somewhere around 160 to 200 grand that are collected in additional taxes annually. And those are added to the budget every year. And so you're already running from 134, which I think is last year's certified budget, to this year 144, now the proposed is 15. And you're already running a 15 budget and the deficit at that. And near as I can tell, a 14 plus the 1 will get you inside of your budget. So I am having a hard time seeing justification there. Long-term intent would be my next problem for the last 5 years. we've triggered truth in taxation decisions, and that's based on something other than a revenue neutral tax rate, if that makes sense, probably will to you guys. So for the last 5 years, we've triggered these kinds of meetings, at least by my records. 3 of the last 5 of those increases, by the way, North Logan has never denied itself an increase. But 3 of the last 5 years are the biggest 3 increases that North Logan City has ever had. There is maybe a little bit of different wording that I would use. There's kind of an infamous story going around the county offices about maybe even a tantrum that was thrown because we have before us a 10% increase to consider. If I understand correctly, it was much more than that, and it was a good story to hear. North Logan City's response to that. So if I'm honest, it's a little bit embarrassing to the town council, I would think. But what we have in here, as I can see, is a pretty healthy budget. One that I'm not sure justifies the rate increase, but even if it did, what I see more of is increase by habit or increase by policy or increase by opportunity. And I see much less increase by need. Thank you.
If you'll just stay for a minute, I'm just gonna be honest that I'm quite curious about a tantrum that you're speaking about. That's kind of a vague accusation.
It's not meant to be an accusation, just a story we can tell offline if you'd rather.
Well, I mean,
If
since
you're
you
gonna bring it up, I would actually
yeah,
also.
like if you
I
bring it
would
up,
like
I've been present in those meetings and I would love the chance to clarify that.
The way I heard it is Mr. Luce about pounding on the desk because we couldn't get 3 times the rate approved.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I think that's a good time for us to speak to that. Mr. Luce was livid about the amount of increased taxes that each of our citizens would have to bear under these increased valuations. That was what the tantrum was about. I'll cede to you that there was an outburst, but it was advocacy on behalf of our citizens because without.
That's fair. I wasn't there, but the
Well,
story.
right, but I'm just saying if you bring it up, yeah, like I would love to clarify that. And I can tell you who was in the room and they can confirm that. It was nothing about in response, I will tell you when I was personally offended in that meeting was the county saying, look, our hands are tied. We have to do this. Maybe you guys should consider what your burden is. And we said, sure, let's consider that. Let's compare the two. We're talking about an $800 increase versus on average a $34 increase. So thank you for the time to clarify that, but that's what the outburst was about.
I appreciate the clarification. It was meant to not necessarily be accusational, which is why I left names out of it. But the relationship between North Logan City and the county is not a healthy one. And everyone in this room is part of that. And so I just wanted to bring that up. I don't like that and I appreciate though, hearing the other side. It's
Okay.
fine with me and there's no judgment here from me. I'm just telling you what it is that I see, which is sort of a pattern of rockiness when it comes to these taxes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your input. And we'll speak a little bit to that relationship with the city. I would also not characterize it that way. I think that we've had a pretty open dialogue with the city and a lot of interaction with the county
Right.
that I wouldn't consider adversarial.
And that's fine. For me, it's not the focus of our meeting tonight,
Sure.
and I don't need to make it the focus.
Sure.
But I do want to bring that up because I do think as a representation of me,
Mhm.
as you do business with everyone else, how this goes matters,
Okay,
not just what happens.
yeah, we can talk about that
Yeah.
in a little bit. Thank you so much.
My name is Kelly Fife. Sterling is my son. He's recently moved into North Logan. The piece of paper that I hold in my hand is a copy of the budget for North Logan City going back to 1997. And between 1997 and up to 2005, the city of North Logan only requested a budget increase one time. From 2006 to 2015, it was only requested 3 additional times. Since that time, it's been requested every year and not denied. There's the paperwork. Second of all, this piece of paper by law was supposed to be on the desk when you walked through the door because this is what the county put out. This is a comparison between the other 3 cities in Cache County that requested an increase. You need to look at that. Alan Luce made the comment that about the huge increase in the budget for the law. If you look at Hyde Park, for those of you that picked one of those up, you'll see that their current certified value is 591,000 and they're going to 742,000. According to Alan Luce's numbers for the law enforcement, that would take up all of Hyde Park's entire budget because they would be 50% of our budget because we should be in it together because it's North Park Police. So that would include their entire budget. So I'm seeing a little bit of a problem there.
I'll just clarify on
I
that
have
point.
another, I only have 2 minutes, so I'm
Okay,
going to
go
go ahead
for
and
it.
continue.
Go for it.
I have another piece of paper in my hand that gives you another $170,000 this past year in personal property taxes, in motor vehicle taxes, in delinquencies. There's one I can't even identify. So you in fact started with a budget of $1.3 million and ended up with a budget of $1.5 million, which is what you've requested this year, and you'll receive these additional funds going forward from there.
All right,
Now,
your time
what
is
my
up. If you'll
concern
wrap
is-
up, Ms. Fife.
What my concern is the following.
You have 10 seconds.
Who's going to abdicate their time? Thank you.
Sounds great.
Okay. The city of North Logan has a 13.9% poverty rate. This is from the 2020 census. We have a 9.4% of our individuals who are 65 and over, and we have vets of 303. Now, the 65 and plus people can defer their tax rate. They can defer their taxes until they die, but then their progeny have to pay off those taxes with interest. The county does not have money to help the vets out this year, and there's no money for them. Now, I also compared that with Hyde Park, which is our sister city, and they're pretty close to the same based on the comparison. In addition to that, we have nearly 7% of the population in both of those cities who are not medically insured. The point being that the city has established a history over the last 5 years of requesting an increase in the budget, not turning themselves down, not really justifying what they needed, and not taking into consideration the fact that you will be taxing people out of those homes. We have a representative here tonight whose parents have been taxed out of their homes. I've had people calling me who have had their parents taxed out of their homes. You are on a path to tax these people out of their homes. When do you plan on stopping? You've already established that. When are you going to stop requesting that amount of money before you say no? And I'm saying that the citizens of North Logan are saying now is the time to stop. You are already overly funded. If you can't pull your budget in, that's a problem. Right now, there is a 40-year high in inflation. Right now, as we speak, Congress is passing a huge spending bill.
Your time is up.
Before the
So wrap
time
it up,
is over,
please.
who will advocate their? Thank you. Before the end of the next 6 weeks period, you will have a huge increase in federal taxes. And yet you want to come to us and request year after year after year an increase. For those of you that picked up the one that I brought, you'll want to look down and see we're at 9.98%, which is the lowest, but that still is at $140,000. You'll notice that Hyde Park is going from 591,000 to 742,000. You will note that Nibley, who has a similar business plan to fund themselves, is going from 840,000 to 958. They are also going after a yearly increase. You'll also look at Wellsville, which is at 46.26%. They're getting $120,000. They're going from $260,000 budget to a $381,000 budget. And you don't think they don't have to have the same things you have to have? Like my son said, you are the highest funded city entity this side of Pocatello and north of Ogden. That's all I have to say, except for one thing. My legal name is Kelly Fife, but according to one of your paid members of your city, I am that land-in lady up there. And that is exactly how it was stated to the county clerk. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Ms. Five.
Lee Gillenskog.
Sorry, repeat that one more time. Lee,
Lee Gillenskog.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I always appreciate speaking with our elected officials. Always great to have that opportunity. Okay. Ms. Five was spot on here, and I agree with her, and I'm not a tax person. But I don't mind paying a little bit more if I know where this money's going to, and it's going to do something that we need to have done, infrastructure. And I know you're saying libraries and that are not being paid and this and that. That's fine, but somebody pays for those. We're not going to have all that money paid and donated to pay for these things. Now, there's other things that we need to have done with this money. Okay, we got roads that are horrible. We got water systems that do not even exist, that should exist. You know, where's a cistern we can put some water in up here when we have water, so we don't have water police coming around the neighborhood, snooping around, seeing if somebody's got their water on. We pay water, we pay for it. I don't mind being conservative, I don't, but we're in the wrong place with the money. 19th North, 14th East is chaos on the road. Giant pine trees with deer running in and out of them. We need roads fixed. I'll pay you a few extra bucks, but you need to reassess where you're putting these dollars. And that law enforcement figure you threw out, someone threw it out here. It was like $1 million increase in 2 years. What does that mean? Okay, and I know my time's up and I appreciate it, but we need to redirect our funding. I'll pay you some more money. Let's get some real stuff done.
Thanks, Mr. Gillenstock.
My name is Alan Karchner. I've been a resident of the city for 53 years, so I've been here a long time, watched a lot of things change. And I was on the city council for 12 years, so I participated in a lot of the changes. I know that it's always hard to ask for an increase. One of the mistakes that we often make, and we've made it in North Logan, is to not have a small increase every year. So one of the things I would suggest is that you plan to have an increase every single year. I realize that takes a truth in taxation hearing. It's not pleasant. You get yelled at, but it is clear that all costs for everything that you buy goes up every year. So if you wait, you're actually strangling your city. I also know
Let's have decorum, please.
that each department head has to submit their budget every year. And every year, the council reduced those budgets every single year because it didn't fit into the overall plan. Now, does some money go somewhere where it shouldn't? Possibly. But unfortunately, people differ in their views of where the money ought to go. And where have we done it in North Logan? We have a library. We have a police system that is very good. At one time, we had contracted with the sheriff, and they allowed one officer in the north part of the valley and one officer in the south part of the valley in the evening at night. Time of response was terrible. We have fire protection. At one time, that was provided by Logan City until they decided to double our rate in a single year, and we decided we would have a fire department. And now we have a fire department, EMT. We have parks. We have a cemetery. We have a library. I don't use all of those services, not the cemetery yet, I hope. But I do know that all of those services are necessary for a community to be viable. And I would like North Logan to stay viable, go through the pain of doing this kind of thing, but have a tax increase that represents what's actually happening every year.
Thank you, Mr. Kirchner.
My name is Karen Budge. We moved into North Logan in November of 1999. And at that time, my taxes were $1,062. Today, my taxes are going to be $2,553.10. I would like to speak in behalf of the retired individuals that live in this community. We love this community. I appreciate everything that every one of you do. I live on a fixed income. I cannot, well, when the Social Security increases your monthly stipend, then so does the insurance. And so it pretty much eats up everything that you get. And I think everybody here that's a retired person understands where that money goes. Even though the government gives you an increase, it doesn't go anywhere in your budget. I have to stick to my budget. I don't have any way of raising my budget, sort of going out and finding a job at 75 years old, which is not really feasible. But what I would just like to say is thank you for your time. Please take into consideration, as I think it was Mrs. Fife said, that people are being taxed out of their homes. I don't want to be taxed out of my home. But I do know that the taxes that I'm paying now are just almost triple what they were when I moved into this community. And I would really appreciate it if you would take the time to work on your budget as well as I have to work on mine. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Ms. Budge.
My name is Sharon Marcies, and I've lived in North Logan since 2012. And apparently, North Logan City, really, your budget isn't going up all that much. It's Cache County, and maybe that's what we should be doing. But I just also wanted to say what Mrs. Fudge with that just said. I am on a fixed income, and my home this year, last year, well, the evaluation went from 422,000 to 744,000. Now, there's no way my home is going to sell for $744,000. But because of that, why my taxes are going up over $1,200 in 1 year. I realize that's a tiny amount. That's a huge amount, and yours is just a tiny amount, North Logan City, and I understand that, and I am glad to see how it goes, and I'm not going to complain about that, but it seems like somehow or other,
We need to stop these evaluations going up. And for taxes to go up $1,200 in 1 year is really hard on somebody who has a fixed income. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Tacey Shostrom. I've lived in North Logan for about 8 years now, and I'm not a tax person either, but I can do simple math. Unlike the lady who was up here just before me, my property valuation went up $175,000 since last year. I don't know that I could sell my home for that. I'm pretty sure I could not. So I guess I'm an anomaly. I'm not one of the people you were talking about whose rates will go up $36 a year. Mine is going to be over $500 for the year. So it's a big hit for me. I'm officially retiring next year. I'll be on a fixed income. So besides this year, I'm looking at taxes going forward. I appreciate the warning in the paper that says budget increases are forever. That concerns me greatly. And I would also like to know, well, I guess I can't ask a question. So a comment is, I don't know who does the assessments or at what time. But as we've seen in the news lately, house prices have hit the top of the bubble, it looks like. Northern Utah market edging towards normal as sales fall. What are we going to do next year when our valuation on our houses go down $100,000, $200,000? Will the city make that assessment and decrease it downward to reflect the actual market value? Or is it something that we as homeowners, property taxpayers have to fight for and petition the city for an assessment? All right, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Shostrom. We will address some of those questions for you.
Grace, I've been in this community for 53 years. I take care of a parent who has been taxed out of her home. She was a widow's pension. Last time I addressed this with the city, they told me that she got an increase in her Social Security, which she does not receive because my father passed away 3 months before his retirement. We've been paying her property taxes. I buy and sell multiple properties in the valley as a builder and an architect. I've never seen taxes go down. And the same thing's happening to her. Again, this year she was borrowing money. Now we're paying part of her property taxes. Most, I guess all of them now, because the city, these little increases seem like a little, but they're impacting our senior citizens. We don't have children in school anymore. And yet we're paying these great increases in the education system. The elderly people of the community are on fixed incomes. To be taxed as if we have lively incomes that are continually going up is idiotic. And the other problem is I agree with her as I deal with home costs going up and down. I've never seen the property taxes decrease when the values of homes, and we've hit this type of thing where budgets on homes go down and it lasts about 5 to 10 years. We're in an odd bubble right now. And I can tell you that with the inflation and all of the stuff that we're facing now things are coming down to they're starting to decrease a little bit in the market, but people shouldn't have to sell their home. Even though the value is there in the home, they have to live somewhere. People on fixed incomes cannot go out and rent for $2,000 and $3,000 a month. So that's what was suggested at the last meeting that I attended. If you can't afford your property taxes, you're unable to afford a monthly rent. It's time to kind of think about your citizenry that's in the retirement years. These taxes are asinine. I had property that we've, in what, 4 or 5 years, I've had property more than triple its value on unimproved properties.
Okay, thank you. That's your time.
Thank you so much.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. So there are a few things that I just want to address off right now. One of those is when you're talking about valuation of property. That is something, as we mentioned, that meeting that we had with the county getting heated. The primary source of that frustration in that meeting was about these valuations, because we knew exactly what that would do to those in our city with fixed income. So tonight we are considering a property tax increase of that portion of the pie that we can control. What we cannot control is your property valuations. What we were trying to do in that meeting is appeal to the county for any sort of relief from those increased valuations. But they are required by law to be within 5% of market value. One thing that they told us in that meeting is that citizens are able and are encouraged to, if you feel that your property values are unfounded, valuations are unfounded, then you can appeal that with the county. That is not something that the North Logan City affects at all. That is not within our control. But that is an option available to you. In terms of valuation, they have a rotating schedule of which properties are assessed in any given year. In Cache County, those are based on the year that your house is built. There's a range. And so this year, Alan, do you remember, is it 2016 or older?
It's 2006 to current day.
Okay, so those were all assessed this year. But what they do, if they don't assess your house specifically, they will do what's called a statistical increase. So they will estimate what they believe your property increased that year, and they will bump up the price of your house based on that statistical increase. In the event, it's just how the system is. In the event that your home price drops in a year, say that this bubble bursts and those home prices drop, the county will then have to adjust your home value within 5% of the fair market value. So that is all county run business. That is something that North Logan does not impact. Just to let you know, we have a great relationship with the county. We work with them on a variety of levels. We're in meetings with them all the time. That's why when we saw these home valuations increasing, when we saw that coming down the pike, the first thing that we did was we got the assessor's office in North Logan City and to say, what can we do about this? The other thing that we did in that meeting is we asked both our legislators, Chris Wilson and Mike Peterson, to come to that meeting and ask them, is there anything that you can do? Because the county's saying our hands are tied. We have to have those valuations within 5%. If we do nothing tonight, I can tell you, just based on my home, I will pay $800 more in taxes. And that's if North Logan does nothing. So a lot of these increases that we're talking about, North Logan cannot control what those are for each of you. I just want that to be clear. That is how the tax system works. And it's something that has given us some sleepless nights because I understand that. I understand that money has to come from somewhere. Let's see. Just to speak towards the cemetery tax, that is something that we're working on within the city. The Hyde Park Hyde Park Cemetery District, it's not associated with the city itself. They initially said that they would accommodate that, and that has not been the case. So we are working on that. That could be a significant reduction that would exceed any increases that we're talking about this year.
Hyde Park's portion of the police budget?
Yeah, so Hyde Park's portion of the police budget, Alan, do you know that off the top of your head? It's not 50-50 because our cities are not the same
It's
size.
26%.
So Hyde Park has 26%, so of the North Park Police. So that changes that math.
So that 1.8 million makes up our 74% burden, correct? Just
Correct.
to clarify, hopefully that's clear to everybody on the police department. 1.8 million is 74% of the overall North Park Police Department budget. Hyde Park kicks in the rest, whatever that number is, that other 26%. And if you look at our populations, that's about right? They're about 5,000 and we're approaching 14,000 on the latest census. So the percentages actually add up.
Ms. Fife, if you could wait till we're opened up for public comment, that would be really great. Let's see, as far as long-term intent, this is something that we don't want to do every single year. We do need to be clear about when taxes were raised, and that was 2018, 2019, and 2020. So when we're talking about the previous 5 years, it would be inaccurate to say that they've raised every single year. That is not to say that they're, like I said, we do not control valuation in any way, shape, or form. So it is possible that in that time, your actual tax liability increased. That is something that is tied to the housing market. That is tied to property valuations. I cannot control that.
It's also possible that Cache County School District asked for an increase.
That's true as well. We do not control any of the other entities
That would ask for an
that are
increase.
part of your property tax pie. We can control that 13%. So let's see, I'm just kind of going through my notes here. Who represents North Logan with the county? That would be me. I'm in those meetings. They are very aware of our concerns. They're very responsive, but they are bound by that law that says that their property valuations have to be within 5% of the fair market value. So that meeting did get heated because we know the implications of that. But that's who's in those meetings. All right. I mean, we're all facing inflation in running a city. Just from a human resources standpoint, our costs go up and we have to pay people to keep them around. And it's more expensive to replace people than it is to increase their wages to market value. If you look across the board, we are not overpaying our employees and they're doing a really efficient job with our money. Okay. Okay, as far as, there were several people who talked about jumps in value. I just want to reiterate that North Logan can control our portion of this pie. We cannot control those property valuations.
Can I make a comment to that real quick, Lindsay?
Sure.
I'm a real estate agent, and 3 years ago, I mentioned to my husband that there was a home, 900 square feet, that sold for 175 a square foot, and that was unheard of. And over the last 3 years, we've seen jumps of 30 and 20% each year. So our property has definitely gone up here. The last few months I've started watching, now we've had 10% or 10,000 decrease, and now we're at $50,000 where I'm seeing homes that are dropping 50,000. That hasn't happened in the last 3 years. So your homes, if you're being told what their value is, that's your value. Do we want you to have to sell your home so that you can afford to live? No. And we're all in the same situation. None of us up here would ever want to put you in financial hardship. So we're having to do a hard thing. We welcome your comments and love that you've come, but please know this is also very hard for us and we're doing our very, very best. So appreciate your time for coming, and please just know we're doing our best.
Thanks, Joni.
Can I?
Yeah,
you want us to go
Buzzy,
through
great.
So I wrote down a lot of notes. A couple things. So like Lindsay, my tax valuation this year, I'm going to pay $720 more this year. So, you know, fortunately for me, I'm not on a retirement income and actually still have like 28 years to get there, although it's coming fast, it feels like. But a couple of things that this body has to handle every year, we have to try to understand and hope we get right what the priorities of the community are, right? So we could come out, you know, we might have consensus from the community that we don't want parks anymore. And we don't want to fund parks. We don't want the police department. We don't want to fund the police department. We don't need fast emergency service responses. The feeling from this body is that that's not what people in the community want, right? Because we spend all year visiting with people. And many of you in this room we've spoken with, at least I have. And the consensus for most is that we value our parks and our open space. That costs money, right? We value the fact that we have a police department that responds within a few minutes. Very expensive. Same with fire and EMS. And these are the things that get more painful as community grows. Pretty straightforward, right? The more people we have, the more these resources cost. But what we can't do is continue to sit flat because of those pies right there. I think everybody in this room agrees that the biggest difference is in that orange pie. That's what matters to all of us the most, right? That's your roads, that's your services, that's your city staff. That's everything that you see day to day. The rest of that stuff, not everybody has kids in school anymore. That comment was made, yet you're paying for it. Not everybody, you know, uses the health fund, but you're paying for it. But all we can do here is try to give you services that matter in that orange section that you see every day out your door when you walk on the roads, when you walk on the sidewalks, and they're not perfect, right? I mean, all of us have seen the roads and the damage that's there, and Alan and the departments work very hard to try to keep those up every year, but that might be one of our most single biggest expenses, keeping those roads functioning. And gravel goes up. All these costs go up, just like anybody that's bought milk this year is spending more for a gallon of milk. It's the exact same concept on a bigger scale across everything the city has to spend. So for us, I think Alan made some good points, and I heard some heckling when he was up here, but Alan knows because he spent a lot of years here and he sees how this works. And Sterling, to your point, we're neighbors. Let's get together and talk through some of the stuff you mentioned because we need to have facts, right? Coming up and kind of guessing at some of that isn't helpful in these conversations, but I'm happy to sit with you and say, you're right. It takes 4 years to understand this. So let's go through it together so you know the facts. But I thought Alan brought up some good points. You know, hindsight being
And
20.
you're speaking about Mr. Karchner, right?
Mr. Karchner, Alan
Okay.
Karchner, excuse me. Hindsight being 2020, we probably should have done smaller increases that would be $8 a year. You know, maybe that is the right thing to do going forward because that's a lot easier to swallow versus $30 a year, $40 a year, especially on a year when valuations are through the roof, most abnormal that we've ever seen in the county. But the bottom line is those costs do increase and we try to prioritize what we think you want. So I just want to echo what Joni said. This is the most populous meeting we've had all year. No one comes to these. We sit here and look at an empty room of chairs, you know, but we want your feedback. We want it here. And please, you know, reach out to us. Let's hear what you want because now you have an understanding tonight of where this money goes. We're not lying to you. The books are wide open. It's all yours anytime to come into the city offices and see where it's spent. You can see the $400 we get a month as council members, right? It's very transparent to that level. So come tell us what you want. If you don't like that we have to raise these every year, tell us what to cut. Let us know. And that's just what I'll say. We have to do our due diligence. We got to be able to pay our people. We got to provide the basic services that we all enjoy. And
Thanks, Buzzy.
last note, we're all paying for it too up here. We're not exempt from that payment this year.
Yeah, and I would echo that as far as the city budget goes, we are an open book. The police budget, that's all public record. Please come look at that. Don't guess what those numbers are. We will give them to you. Emily, Craig, Roger, anything?
I'll just echo what has said. Anybody that is working is employing other employees, the employee costs. If we want to keep people, we all have to raise those up a little bit in order to keep those good people. And we're struggling to find those in police and fire and EMS. And like you say, I've struggled with the thought too. Like everybody else's, I've got my increases are over $800 this year. But I also know what it's going to take to work out in that orange piece of a pie. Oh, one other last thing. If you've taken time out of your night to come here, thank you. I appreciate that.
but I also would like to see you at the county meeting. The county's the one that holds that power for those assessments. We don't. So I challenge anybody that's here, go to that county meeting and put your voices out for those, where those assessments really get made at the county level.
And the state legislature.
Okay, Roger? Oh,
I'll maybe make a couple of comments and kind of back to public safety. When I was on the council for 10 years and I first got on the council, there was talk about building a $1.3 million building over here. And I had citizens come to me and say, hey, before we build this, can we look at maybe contract with the county? Streamline costs. We've heard, whether combine and save. And we looked at that, and obviously we've had multiple meetings. I don't know if all the voices were heard, but we basically heard we support our police. We don't mind paying more. And I'm just saying what I've heard from citizenry about how to spend their money. And at that meeting, we sat up on stage and they basically said that we don't mind paying more and we want those services. And, we had a difference. The challenge we have is, again, the HR issue of what's seen in the last is kind of exploded on there. And it's, it's like running, a small business. And so I do feel that way, but I do feel that since then I've kind of, does that mean we don't look at those things? Can we get efficiencies? But you look at any one of these budgets, I think how much of the police is 80% of the police budget is personnel. You take, so then again, you say, where do you cut that? And that's, we all face it in our work that we do. So it's a challenge.
Alan, sorry, I cut you off.
Sorry, the only thing I was going to say is something you've already mentioned, Mayor, but that was just along the lines of the assessed value on your properties that comes from the county. And then the certified rate, accordingly, the rate comes from the state. We have no control over that. So the rate comes from the state and the county to us. We have zero control over what the rate comes back at or the assessed values. However, the county has set up a formalized process to contest a value. So if you feel like your value is too high, the burden of proof is on the property owner. So you have to get comparables or an appraisal and bring that to the county to show that your value is too high. And they have a formal process. You need to reach out to the county and they'll give you that to you. They take you through the process. But that is a resource available. I just want to make sure that that's clear to everyone here.
Hey, there was a comment made earlier that I underlined. Maybe you can show this because it's really important to understand. It was confusing me when I first got on the council, but somebody said we can just hold the tax rate. And in Utah's truth and taxation laws, can you explain what that really means? Because this is really critical. It's not what it sounds like.
So right here, that first paragraph, as we talked about, each year the county assessor going out and the assessed values and the property goes up. Accordingly, the state tax rate goes down and we receive that certified rate from them. And then you end up paying roughly the same. That's the theory behind property tax law from the state. No, this all just comes to us from the state. So as you go down here, though,
It's just absolutely true. Our tax rate goes down to adjust so that we collect the same amount every single year.
Dollar for dollar,
That is Utah truth and taxation law.
So
right.
To answer the
but that is going to be a collective amount. So that is looking, that is looking at the entire county in the aggregate. So there will be differences between different citizens, what you see, but that is something that by Utah law, it's really different than anywhere I've ever lived. But by Utah law, if property values go up, correspondingly, the rate goes down. So if we do nothing every year, that rate will continue to fall. And we can show you those numbers, but every single year, those numbers will go down. Our portion of that pie will go down if we do nothing.
And it has decreased. You can actually see that 2%, I think, over a few years, that rate drops. Yeah.
So the portion of the budget, there is a portion of our budget that increases with new builds every year, and what commercial revenue is, what commercial tax revenue is. So those are the two things that are outside of that. And I will own that. I think that everyone has seen that we are experiencing inflation. We have to pay more for personnel, that alone. But you add that to every single thing within our city budget. Gas costs us more. Materials for roads costs us more. Anything that we're doing, just basic services, is costing us more money. So we really do that. That's a really important thing, I think, for every single one of us, that we're being responsible with your money. Another thing I didn't address is some of the infrastructure. We're working on the water infrastructure. That's a top priority right now. So just so you know, that is something that we're working on.
One thing to relate to that, though, property taxes wouldn't be involved in anything associated with
Right.
Water
Right.
is an enterprise fund.
Meaning that we are bound to pay for any water infrastructure based on monies that we collect for water. So those two things have to be tied. We're not allocating money in excess of what those enterprise funds bring in. So as you pay your water bills, we pay for infrastructure needs.
And the mayor addressed this. To answer that question about holding the rate, it's a common term. The mayor accurately portrayed how the rate goes down every year. So it keeps going down. Several cities in the valley this year, when we were talking about this, they said, oh, we're just holding the rate. And North Logan City had to contact all of them and say, do you know what that means? Do you know what just holding the rate means? And they didn't. And they go through truth in taxation process and they tell all the residents, we're just holding the rate. But just holding the rate can be anywhere from an 8 to a 25% increase in your property taxes every year. And so when we talked with them about that, that's why a lot of cities are higher in their rate than North Logan City.
And Scott, do you know this off the top of your head? What would holding the rate, what would that percentage increase be this year?
It's right.
Is it 14?
For North Logan City, it's 14. For Wellsville, it was 45%.
Okay.
So they had to not do that.
Okay.
At that time.
Emily, you're probably the only one I think that's not said anything. Do you
Yeah,
need to
I mean,
add anything?
it's really interesting because I see a lot of people who are really, really concerned, and I am concerned because I used to be you. And last year, before I got more into the taxes, I just found myself thinking the same things. But the more I looked at the budget, I noticed a lot of things. And I noticed this, we're highlighting the budgets that are asking for more money. And we're not even talking about the budgets who are cutting their budget every year. We're using less money every year. And to say that we're using our money responsibly would be like the number one goal of pretty much everyone on the council. Nobody is sitting here looking to increase taxes. No one here voted to increase our salaries because that's not why we're here. No one's voting to increase taxes so that way we can pave the streets in gold. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking to represent you, and everything I've come back from my neighbors, from everyone that I've talked to about what is the priorities, that is where the money is going. It is not going for anything else. It's going for the priorities that have been mentioned, and everyone has already mentioned them before. So when we think about this, I want you to remember that I am trying to represent you as best as I possibly can. And this is how we have to do it. We have to do this truth in taxation.
We need to.
And we absolutely need to. To be honest with you, I'm ready to vote. Is there
Okay.
any other discussion that we need to? Because I am ready to make a motion.
Okay. Yeah, I would entertain a motion.
Okay. Scott, if I say this completely wrong, please correct me. I would like to vote to increase the tax rate by $90,000. Is that correct? Did that how I say
So
that?
the
Okay.
motion I have on the table is a motion to increase the certified
Yes.
rate by $90,000.
Yes.
Which is correspondingly a 6.4% increase.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Emily, second by Buzzy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Again, I'd like to echo what the council has said. One of my favorite things about this community is that people show up. I encourage you to talk to us and tell us what your priorities are. If you think that we're misspending your money, let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation about it. So we'll have to do it after the meeting. I was just
Yeah.
trying to find that. Does anyone know that off the top of their head?
It's
If,
gotta-
I know that their next, I looked and their next meeting
We meet on
is,
Tuesdays. I
They meet on
know.
Tuesdays.
they
but
do.
I don't know if the next one's regarding taxes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have that. I was just trying to look for that, but yeah, it is Tuesdays and the next one will be on the 9th.
Yeah.
The 9th and the 23rd of this month, but you'll have to, they haven't released the agenda for that yet, so I'm not sure when exactly they'll be talking about it. But you can also speak to your county representatives. Currently, it's Gina Worthen that represents our area on the council, and then Mark Hurd just got won the primary to replace her. So those are maybe some people that you can have some conversations with.
I do know that they're on a different budget cycle. Explain that, Alan, because right now their budget's a little different. So they would be discussing this more.
We're on a fiscal year that begins July 1st and ends June 30th. They're on a calendar year fiscal year. So there's
So-
January 1st to December 31st.
So they kind of,
So-
that's where they may not be discussing an increase now because they're in the middle of their.
But they can tell you exactly when that would occur
Yeah.
because we have to set those dates early on in the year. So if you call up the county or get with your representative, they will know those exact dates.
But the discussion on the evaluations of property needs to be had right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
If that's what we're all
If you want
building
to assess, if you want to contest the valuation of your home, you need to do that now. You
Right.
don't want to wait.
Today. Like
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
You need to go in today if you want to contest.
Do you have a point of clarification? Okay, so I'll repeat that just on the record. On the back of your tax bill, I have mine here. It outlines the process and gives you some links to contest that value. Thank you.
I do think we should be open about the fact that those are very difficult to accomplish, just being completely honest with you. So I don't want you to think that the council's trying to give you false hope that the county's really going to change those. It's worth it, especially if you're in a hardship, but it's very difficult and usually are denied, just to be quite frank. So
Go ahead.
yeah.
Okay, so just
That's
to
good.
repeat
So
what
maybe
he
they're
says
being
on the
really
record,
additional.
if you get your own appraisal, then that's compelling with the county valuation. So,
And if you don't like how the valuations were done, if the rules of the state of Utah are not fair to you, I would then really strongly encourage, we've said this before, our state representatives are who we need to fix that. And for us, that's Mike Peterson and Chris Wilson.
yep. Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this
So-
meeting.
Motion to adjourn, but the council's requesting just a quick recess.
Okay, yeah. So we'll adjourn and then we'll recess for 5 minutes.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion by
Second.
Buzzy, second by Emily, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. We'll adjourn for 5 minutes.
You say that you get the same amount of money in each year. And you can increase like 6%. Okay, then I'm paying $1,000. Who, because you're always dealing with percents up here, that means the amount of money being taxed in this area is greater than what they're giving out.
So
Hey, Spencer.
Who they from?
Oh, put him right here. So did you hear if he's accepted the offer? He's coming.
That's not fair. That's not fair at all.
Awesome. Thanks. I know, no one.
So who gets this surplus of money because the values gone up so much? So the homes are making up the difference for the businesses? Oh my gosh, that is totally wrong. So mine went up, I figured it went up 60% from this year to from last year to this year. So I don't know what to do. Just go through that process. Okay. Okay, and can I go around and ask my neighbors what they're about valuations were? But they won't tell me. It's public. It's public what the taxes are. Okay, now, my neighbor is disabled 90%. I don't agree with that. Is that really for the military? They reduce that or? Yeah, that's it.
Hey. Oh, yeah, it's tax increases, so I'll be here till 10, I'll be up at about 10:30.
He got the doctor.
Are you leaving now? Okay.
Can I go
I'll take
down?
the truck and I bring the propane tanks and bikes and paddle boards, anything else?
Okay, so can I go down?
They're gonna be in the garage, honey. No, I mean, I put them side by side. I mean, actually, the paddle boards are 59 cents. We're really gonna bring them that much out.
Okay.
Okay. I already got fire extinguishers up there, honey. Yep. Yep. Okay. I'll get bait. Hey, honey. I'll get bait boxes. Yeah, I'll go. We can even buy some maybe at the hardware store there. Just get going. Casey.
What I'm trying to say is, when you look at their printout, this number here is $29, but I correctly assure you, the section chapter 59, but it's actually. That was, keep in mind, that would be 2% increase inside the 6%. So all I'm trying to say is that the number of years.
Hey. Yeah. The one? No, so we're about to reach her. So we have, yeah. No. That was a public hearing for the tax. So obviously, and you may have to, I mean, not some of these items, they may not say what's public comment, but a lot of times if you raise your hand, be like, hey, I have a comment about this, come up. Yeah, or even come up. You can just say it, and you may just have a quick comment on this particular item. We'll usually let you come up with a state your name. So yeah.
I'm so sorry. to have to sit through that meeting. We're about to-
I think I saw it. And if it was, then you'd be fine. The circles is intense too. I think the 5 minutes. We'd like to invite Buzzy to come back up to the stand. 5 minutes is up. Well, you don't get to go now.
I've got a discussion with them,
Spencer took the one box and passed it around everybody, so that's why I didn't steal your box. It was over there. I can't eat them. You like on some weird night? That's good. I should join my because
good to see you. It was great to see you too. Sorry I wasn't able to say hi. I had to run out to get my kids. I have to run back so my husband can go to work. You know, I told him, that's my friend Brandy. She's blind. Yeah, just bugs. Like, it's pretty nice to see accommodations made in a way. And you know, I love going to the temple. I was telling Ryan when I got home, I was like, oh, I saw Craig there with his wife. And like, I'm gonna go with you. My husband looked at me and was like,
We do Wednesday mornings or unless I have something else. The next 2 Wednesdays I'm gonna be there. We gotta go to Fort Benning, we'll see the first way the basic training. I have a class with them.
yeah.
The next 2, I'll be there. But we always try and go together. And go to that.
That's my favorite. Yeah, it's my favorite session. We will do. There's something about the dedication to get a band together for people. I just feel like the faith is just, it's sustaining for me. Obviously, I'm to the point where I'm like, I think we can start exchanging things. No, it's good and it's fun. Yeah, I'm always just a little bit tired though.
Yeah, me too. It's just that you're going with this.
Oh my gosh, so do I. I'm like, the number of times I've just been like, oh,
did you
where, no.
hit the hospital? She had a hard time. She had a 2-year-old and she had chest compressions. About a week ago. She called. Came in, wasn't breathing, they were getting ready to life flight her. They think they're stable. 45 minutes. She was sleeping. Yeah. She's expecting I'm gonna be grandpa in December.
That's great. So I get the like joy.
December. You have a girl.
Not actually having to do it, but it's in my mind.
Yeah. Really, for what? For what reason? Oh. Wow. Yeah. She works knock shift. That's hard. That's better for baby too. You know, she's 5 to 5.
Because I think some of your saying.
She makes more than me per hour. 30 bucks an hour. 30 bucks an hour, yeah. I guess Johnny's.
All right, we're gonna have to get going on the rest of our agenda or else we will be here all night. That's
Excellent.
probably what's going to happen regardless. Buzzy, your bathroom break is over. Do you need to?
Here.
Okay. Let's see. We will now begin our North Logan City Council meeting, August 3rd, 2022. We've already had our roll call, welcome, and opening ceremony. I would accept a motion to adopt our agenda for tonight.
So moved.
All right, motion by Craig,
Second.
second by Joni. All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. We do have some meeting minutes to approve today. I'm sorry, Marie, do you know the date? Is that July 6th? Yeah, so this, I hope everyone's had a chance to look through this because it's a very lengthy meeting minutes, but I would accept a motion to approve those July 6th meeting minutes.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
motion by Buzzy, second by Craig. All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes as well. Alan, do you want to go through follow up on previous meetings and review of action items?
In the interest of time, I'll go very quickly through these. So going down through here, Civic Center design, we're finalizing the designs. We're looking at still some cost saving measures to finalize the city offices, which should start in the next few months. The mayor's been working very heavily on the garbage RFP, the trash czar, in organizing that. And I think the RFP is due by September
9th.
September 9th. Jumping down through here, water, we've applied for the USDA loan. We'll hear back from that soon. We'll actually have meetings in the coming month to go over that, which is fantastic. Looking into all the different things we need to do, including new well reservoirs and the redundant lines. Sewer is similar boat. We're reaching out to the DEQ to apply for a loan for our major trunk line. Streets, they're nearing the finalization of their very busy last month of surface treatments. So they've chip sealed the most roads in North Logan City up to this point, and the slurry sealed the most roads up to this point. And they've done that at a very shoestring budget. So hats off to them. So our annual reports coming up to the state. Engineering's helping out with each of the items we've gone over. Parks, they've redone a portion of the fire station. They're doing things at the cemetery to kind of streamline and reduce costs in each of those places for maintenance. Jumping down through your trails, we're working on the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. We're working with 2 landowners to see what we can do with our grant that we've received for that. Recreation, we'll go over here shortly, but just hats off to them. They have endless recreation going on right now, endless camps. If you want to see all of them, go through the city newsletter, and they are all there. Facilities, they're working on a leak we had at the fire department. Just jumping down through, I touched on each of these. Economic development, they'll consider the county council in the next few meetings. That final CRA, we've already gone to 2 meetings with them. I think in the next couple of weeks, we'll have that meeting to approve that community reinvestment area with them, which would be a tool in our economic toolbox. Jumping down through human resources, we have several things coming up in the next month or two regarding onboarding, offboarding, things that we're doing with each of the employees, employee retention, things of that nature. Thanks to Scott for all the information for property taxes. That was terrific. And his work with the county on that regard. Library, we'll go over events at the end of this. They have several events coming up at the end of the summer. And we'll look at those. Police, they're working with us on nuisance properties. And the hiring process right now for the chief is, I think they're accepting applications until when?
Next Monday, and then interviews likely will be in a couple weeks from then.
Okay. In the fire department, they have their training chief position still open. They filled the other positions in their department, or are filling them right now. And then the new station 70 is the one. This is really dumb. It's by Burger King. That's the way I remember it, on 2nd North and First East. That's their main station for Logan Fire. They've gone out to RFP for that build project, which is very exciting news for them.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that? Okay, we will move on to recognition of exemplary staff member. Today, we will be recognizing Jesse and his crew, Quinn Spackman, Madison Michelson, and Lindy Hilton. They went above and beyond to bring us all an amazing 24th of July. They had events going from sunup to sundown. This event is the most widely attended event in the Valley by far. They do all of this at a fraction of the cost of other cities. The community had a great opportunity to enjoy this wonderful day of events. Jesse and his staff worked hard and deserved this award. I'll just add to this that it truly was, they just knocked it out of the park this year. I think we had the most attendance for the breakfast, the most attendance for the charity barbecue, and just, you guys just did an amazing job. I also heard, and this is factual, that we had the best parade in the Valley. So I mean, I welcome. Yeah, thank you. So really, thank you for all your hard work. We really appreciate it. Okay, we will move on to the first action item, a public hearing to receive input regarding North Logan City's proposed application to the Council of Governments for funding for engineering, design, and property acquisition for 200 East roadway improvements, 1385 North to 1800 North. Alan, do you want to give us some background on that?
Yeah, I can go through this relatively quickly, but as you're looking at this, just to explain the COG process, you either have two options. You can apply for an application to do a road improvement project on a regionally significant roadway, and they're not capped, but they're competitive. There's only a certain amount of funds available, or you can do it as a spot improvement. 200 East or Wolfpack Way is a regionally significant road, and so we need to apply for the funds. However, this year, it's such a large project that what we're looking at doing is applying for engineering and right-of-way acquisition along frontages of properties to push the road out a little wider. If you just think of Culver's, where that's located, so just think of Culver's location all the way up to the roundabout at 18th North. So along that roadway, this would include a new traffic signal, so a signalized intersection at 18th North and 200
Right behind
East.
Walmart, right?
Right behind Walmart. It's a very dangerous
It's
intersection
terrible
for both vehicles and pedestrians. And so we put in some lights. That's a Band-Aid, pedestrian lights. We want to have a traffic intersection there to improve safety for those individuals in that area that all of us use and the pedestrians that use the area. But this application, just so it's very clear, is only for the design. So it's the design and right-of-way acquisition through this area. And that's the part of the process is we bring this before the public to see if there's any comments, feedback, things that people want to bring to the table regarding this process before we actually apply for these funds from the COG.
Okay, any discussion on that? Any questions for Alan?
Can you
Go ahead, John.
explain further on that COGS so everybody understands that, myself included?
The COG, oh, sorry. COG is Council of Governments. It's a conglomerate of the mayors throughout the valley that make a determination based off of money collected through sales tax and even some state tax that comes
So
through there.
there's a pool of sales tax that council can allocate, and individual cities can apply for that funding. So you can either apply for the actual project itself, or it's relatively recent, right, that you can apply for the design for that. Previously, you'd have to pay that money up front and hope that you get funded for that project. So
Correct.
Are we, part of that looks like it's in Logan City? Is that including that portion of the road as well?
Thank you for pointing that out, Buzzy. So everything south of this portion right here, well, a little bit south of that, that line between Lowe's and Devonshire is the line between Logan and North Logan. This project is a North Logan City application that has to have the support of Logan.
Okay.
So in that folder, you'll see a support letter from the mayor of Logan saying we support your application for this, and they would work with us through the process hand in hand, similar to 3100 North. Hyde Park applied for portions. We applied for portions of 3100 North. Only one city can be the applicant, and so the other city is the supporting applicant.
Are there any homes that will be greatly affected? I know that a lot of businesses are on there, but are there any homes that will be directly affected by this?
The only home that I know of that would be affected by this, to the point where we would have to talk with the landowner, is this home that's currently for sale just north of, right here, north of the pediatric dentistry, on the east side of the road across from Sports Academy.
It was for sale for a couple.
It's for sale right now, and that's the only home along there. And then businesses, their frontages, we would have to work with them to make sure that we go through this process correctly. But again, it's just the expansion of the road to do 2 lanes in each direction and a center median turn lane.
That's a good project with a lot of high volume.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure before we did it, we had addressed any homes, because most of these businesses, I think, would be willing to work with us. I mean,
Yeah.
it benefits them
Yeah, it
ultimately.
benefits them too.
But the
Yeah.
homeowner, do we notify it so we don't have another situation where they are not aware?
They're
It's
aware.
for-
We've talked with
Okay.
them about this
So
one
the
and the
seller's
previous one.
disclosure would include that.
Those wouldn't really be affected. The apartments, a lot of them are rear facing or the side facing of each of them, or their townhomes today.
So you might see the sidewalk shift or something like that, the park strip in between the
Correct.
road on those apartments.
And we'll get to that. Again, that would be associated with the design. We won't know the definitive answers to each of those until we go down the route of the design.
Okay.
Do you know approximately how wide the road would end up being? Yep. Do you know how wide that?
99
90.
foot right away.
Oh, 99.
It's probably around 80 right now in
Why
several
not just go
areas.
for-
Oh, okay. Okay, I would entertain a motion on this.
I was in a
I-
public hearing.
Aren't we supposed to have a
Oh,
public hearing first?
Sorry, I guess I'll let people talk. I'm really tired, you guys. Okay, then I will open, we usually kind of wait till after to do the council
Yeah.
discussion, so
Sorry.
I will open the public hearing. Do I need to reread the public hearing rules? Okay, so to refresh your recollection, please state your name. And there's a 2-minute time limit. So I will open that hearing now. Okay, seeing no comments, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion from council on this.
I'll make the motion to approve the application for funding for engineering design with the COG.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Craig. Was that a second by Joni?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. All right, we'll move on to consider approval of the selection of a contractor bid for the reinstallation of the 1700 East roadway, including the reconstruction of portions of the curb and sidewalk. That's between 1715 North to 1900 North. Hit it, Jordan.
Thank you. This is just revisiting what we talked about last time. So this highlighted area in red is the roadway in question. It's on 1700 East, 1900 North.
Was that the one that was brought up today? That they were talking
No,
about being
no.
terrible? No?
That was
Okay.
he was talking 19th North, 14th East.
Oh, okay.
Down as you drop off the road.
Okay.
Or 17th North. But anyway, no, this is not it. So that's the area in question. Some of as we went through and walked through the site with multiple contractors, we've been looking for a long time for the ADA ramps in that area. There currently aren't any. That was a project that we had bid with a different contractor. So we put it together with this one. So you will see a price increase from the ones we went over last time. So if you want to go over to if you want to do just the bid tab, and we can go back to the actual bid itself. One of the things that we found during this process right now is if we go out for a project this year, the companies we reached out to are struggling to find contractors for concrete. Concrete is still very scarce. We get an allotment about 20 yards a week. And so a lot of the companies were nervous to put a bid together. Johnson's believes they can get it done. And so they were able to give us a bid, and they were able to begin construction, if we accept this, the week of Labor Day. So if you want to go back to the bid. So the bid price went to 217, 170.56. That includes the ADA ramps, the surface repair, subsurface repair, and the curb and gutter repairs that are needed in that roadway.
How firm is that number? Like, are they bound to it?
So they'll only honor this estimate for a short period of time. If you scroll down to right there, go up just a little bit. There's a clause, everybody's been putting this in lately. It's called an escalation clause. So if prices go up before we secure this bid, they'll give us the prices or before we
Sign a
award
contract.
them. Yeah. Before we get them under contract, if prices go up, then the bid will go up. So this is valid for
What's
about
their
15
time frame
days.
in completion?
About a month.
So Labor Day to October-ish?
Yep.
Okay.
It's pretty fast. It's a pretty easy project. It's just expensive because there's a lot of asphalt and a lot of concrete.
Can I ask this? I'm watching what's happening with building cost, and I know there's two really large production builders in the valley. They're just done some big layoffs. I'm wondering, can we set this for next year in hopes that then things have calmed down and prices are going down, we get better product?
And that's an option. One of the things that's happening right now with big contracting companies like this. So Johnson's, for example, there's a 100 West project in Logan that was canceled this year because they weren't able to secure piping. So there's a lot of projects that big construction companies that do this kind of work have pushed off because they weren't able to secure resources. So we don't know what will happen, and they won't give us a forecast on that because it's just a gamble.
So it is a gamble.
Yeah, we have no
whether
idea. Hopefully prices would start to settle down, but concrete's just getting backed up further and further and further. So
What were our early estimates? What were we expecting to pay for this project?
right around, well, this is pretty close. So when we first did an estimate about 6 years ago, it was about 165,000.
Like in the last 2 years, maybe is a more.
Yeah, so
accurate-
it's climbed. But the thing that really got us up this time was putting, compared to the last one, was those ADA ramps. So
Hmm.
that was that's a $15,000 ad.
Oh, I see.
So, sorry, $33,000 ad, but that was from a different project line. But to just get it all done at once, it's actually cheaper to go with them to do the ADAs than it was to have the other.
To break it out.
company do the ADAs. Yep.
Okay.
And legally, from a city standpoint, you want those ADA
Yeah.
ramps.
Yep, there's crossings, the ADA ramps, just
Because
when
we could
that
get sued.
subdivision was developed, they just weren't put in. At that time, they probably weren't required.
Probably
but now they
wasn't.
are.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I do remember the 300 East road replacement.
I don't know how you. remember that.
I don't, it's so weird. It might just be on my mind.
Yes.
What kind of things do we have to protect?
So, yeah, so that project was completely different than this.
Okay.
We are not doing a water line. We're not doing
Okay.
water services. And we are not using a CBDG grant. So this is a completely different ballgame.
Okay.
With this, what we do is we put liquidated damages in place. We put completion dates, standby dates, and this is a very easy project. Like this is
Oh,
very
no.
easy.
Just jinx.
So
Knock
no
on
one
wood.
can
Jordan,
back into a
there's-
gas line?
There's nothing that can go
We
wrong.
won't be digging down. Yes.
Okay, all right.
No, stuff can go wrong and will go wrong. But on the scale of 300 East to this project, they're not on the same.
It just took way longer and it
Yeah.
was a huge mess.
I am worried a little bit about deferment next year from a lot of the cities. We
If
have
they'll
this
wanna
plan,
do
it's
it.
been on the roadmap, so I'll move that we approve this.
All right. So
Second.
motion by Buzzy, second by Emily. All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you,
Um,
oh, is it about the road down? Oh.
I will allow that. This one doesn't have an associated public hearing, but
No.
you're welcome to speak to it briefly.
First, my name's Harrison Kleiner. I'm North Logan resident. I didn't jump up quick enough on the tax. I would like to say I support the tax increase. It strikes me as surprisingly modest, given how much expenses are going up. And I completely second Buzzy's point. I don't want you to cut a lot of the services that you're doing. I think the city's wonderfully run. And actually, some of the comments made are roads are so terrible. Maybe it's because I've lived in Boston for a while. It strikes me our roads are really nice and it's a wonderfully run city. So I actually support
Keep
the tax
talking.
increase.
You have 15
Yeah.
minutes.
I yield my
I'll
time.
donate my
I yield
time.
my
You
time.
know,
to
yeah. So, all right.
You
So
can
now
talk
to
about our
something really
appearance as well.
contentious, sidewalks. So I live on 17th East. They came in to do some sidewalk work a few years ago and started removing, some homeowners chose to remove some of their trees. And then they even sort of fixed some of the sidewalks, but it makes the bulging worse when you remove a sidewalk part because it gives the roots room to sort of expand. So it actually makes the problem worse. It actually turns out it's in our neighborhood covenants that not only must we have trees in the park strips, but they have to be the very messy flowering linden trees that we have in that neighborhood that were actually written into the covenants. This has been somewhat contentious in the neighborhood. I'm told that my children started a mini firestorm at the local ward because they pamphleted the neighborhood with like save our neighborhood trees and all kinds of things. I suppose I'm just making a request to the city. It's a mature tree lined street. It's really beautiful. It's a wonderful little road, a street. When we go through this process, it would be nice. First of all, it's challenging. The park strips were made too small. We'd make them a lot bigger now. They probably put in the wrong kind of tree. There's a whole bunch of things. I guess I just like to make a request that it's a priority of the city when they undertake this project to ensure the sort of preservation of the trees and a mindfulness about the neighborhood covenants that actually require those trees in the park strips.
Okay. And I would recommend that you get with Jordan. Jordan's really good so Jordan Oldham with the city, he'd be a good person to talk to. We aren't usually super involved unless Jordan needs us to wield the shovel. We're happy to do that, Jordan.
I'm chuckling a little bit because the way that conversation started, I thought you were going to say we'd like the trees gone. Like my mind went, oh man, this is going to turn crazy real quick. Because that is a beautiful road, but yeah, I must have.
I would be pushing for the same thing.
Raising
Yeah.
protesting kids that's a good sign.
Bring them to our next.
Okay, well, thank you for your comments. I appreciate it. All right, we will move on to consider a proposed revision to the North Logan Estates subdivision development agreement regarding the construction of the 1200 East and 2750 North roadways. Alan, is this you?
I can introduce it somewhat. Looking at this, so the boundary between North Logan and Hyde Park, set 30 or 40 years ago, they had what's called an annexation boundary plan. And that's as each city starts encroaching towards each other, it's an agreed upon line. And as they move closer to each other, surprisingly, I think the city officials did very well, considering what survey tools and everything else they had. A lot of it's based off of sewer. So what direction the sewer can go. And so they picked a low point between the two cities, and that's basically how it functions. And through this area, according to that plan, when this is developed or when the road comes through, there's two different documents there. Sorry, this parcel right here, I need to highlight it, owned by the Housleys. The north half of the parcel, once developed where the road's in, would go to Hyde Park. It's all currently in North Logan right now. And then the south half, this little triangle piece right here, would go to North Logan and stay in North Logan. Sorry, as it's developed, it would just remain there. So you have the north Hyde Park, south North Logan, which just becomes an absolute nightmare for anyone who wants to develop the property. Because how do you do that? And that was one thing that they didn't specify inside of that original agreement. Like I said, they did a fantastic job, but you can't account for everything. So in working with Hyde Park and working with a potential developer, which he is here tonight, Nick Porter, to develop this property, we wanted to put together what's more of a memorandum of understanding, saying like, if you are going to develop, this is kind of the process you would have to go through, and making sure Hyde Park is on board. The reason being is they would go straight through North Logan for the whole developmental process. But our developmental code is not identical to Hyde Park's. Unfortunately, I wish each city were the same, but there's differences, and there's differences in zoning. And so we would want to coordinate with Hyde Park to make sure that we don't put a bunch of townhomes on the north side and then say, here you go, Hyde Park, it's now yours. We'll take the south half. And so we want to make sure that we align it as well as we can with their zoning. Basically, we're not going to stick it to Hyde Park is essentially what this agreement says, and come through and work with them. And we'd also work with the developer. So as we go through this, they go through the development process, and it's a fair, open process to everyone involved. And so that's the intent. You know, on the south, it'd probably have like 3 lots, and on the north, 4 or 5 lots. I'm guessing based off of the acreage. And we would just want to work with each entity and kind of get buy off from each one. And then as they come in, as homes are built, they obviously pay their impact fees to the home in which, or so to the city in which they reside. So as they come in, they would pay their impact fees at Hyde Park. South ones would pay their impact fees in North Logan. We would split the developmental fees though. They'd come to North Logan, and that kind of carrot we would say is just, you know what, that's going to be part of Hyde Park. Let's just split the developmental fees, and the north half would go to Hyde Park.
Okay.
That's the gist of this. Sorry, I opened up the wrong document here. That's why it's not making any sense.
Nick, do you want to speak to this at all? No. It's up to you. It's not a trick question.
Sorry, and I'm actually on the next.
Oh, sorry.
I was wondering if we jumped an item, we did.
Sorry, I can't do it all, you guys.
It's a rough night. Can someone
Submit
just
your
state it?
negative
Thank you.
comments in the box in the back. It's the round one.
Buzzy and I was following you.
Just call
Um,
me out next time.
Sorry, Nick.
Stand by.
We'll, yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll make a
I was getting
motion.
Really confused.
Okay.
Make a motion.
We skipped one item.
Rod.
What you're
oh,
doing, the motion is to authorize the mayor to sign it upon approval of all the parties involved.
So we're still working on this, but,
Oh,
and I will just say that with Hyde Park, I don't think it's ever been better as far as working with them. It's been a really seamless process, so. Roger, do you still want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we allow the mayor to sign the "Don't Stick It to Hyde Park."
I think it's called the.
Okay, I will
pre-bond.
restate that. Roger makes a motion to consider a
was from
proposed
our
revision
city.
to the North Logan Estate subdivision development agreement. Do I have a second?
Second.
Wait,
Nope.
That's
sorry.
what she has to say.
Would you mind restating that? Because we said a lot of words that mixed 4 and 5 up. So which one are we doing right now?
So it's,
Number
Number
4.
5.
5.
we're on,
Okay.
oh,
will be
yes,
back to
it's not my
4.
fault. Okay, so we're on,
5.
so Roger's making a motion authorizing the mayor's signature of a signing of a pre-development agreement regarding parcel 04-045-002.
Okay.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Craig. All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay,
We got one comment.
Yeah, we're going.
we're
back
gonna go
now.
back. We
Yeah.
swapped those accidentally. That was second by Craig.
I'll just blame it on Roger.
His name is Alan Luce for the record, for the notes on that one.
Okay, so Alan, we'll move on to consider a proposed revision to the North Logan Estate subdivision development agreement regarding the construction of the 1200 East and 2750 North roadways.
All right, now that I know where I'm at. So this subdivision, this is the North Logan Estate subdivision. It's this entire parcel owned by the Phillips. It's the 43 lot subdivision.
Did Nick just leave? Or is-
Yes, he was part of the
Was he
previous
the
one that
okay,
I made the
alright,
mistake
okay,
on that
okay.
you
I
approved.
didn't realize he
Thank
was
you.
that developer.
So we're back on the North Logan Estates discussion. The 1200 East project ties into this. So 1200 East is the COG project that you approved in the previous years. Coming through here and working with the developer, the development agreement was already approved with certain stipulations as to who does what. When you come through this area, who installs what road improvements, who installs a bridge, and that's all specified in the development agreement. However, if we're coming through and we have to do this whole project, it doesn't make sense to team up and say, you do this, I'll do that, and do chunks of a road. It will not work out well. And so we're coming through, and the proposed agreement right now would be to have North Logan come through. And let me go over to this design so you can see these in the correct folder. Let me see if I can open this up. So, sorry, North is to the right. So this is 2750 right here on the bottom portion, going east towards the bottom. And then this is 12th east. And this doesn't exist. This is the S curve that comes through like this over this old bridge. And so the proposal in this development agreement would be North Logan comes in and we do everything highlighted in gray. So we take care of all of that. And then the developer reimburses us 50% of this portion through here, according to our standards and the development agreement. And then in the development agreement, the developer only pays for 25% of the road. So that's the only clarification I need to make regarding this design or this diagram exhibit that tries to clarify things. That's the proposal. We still need to work through the kinks, but again, what you're considering tonight is whether or not you can authorize the mayor to sign a revision to the development agreement. So this is the development agreement, same way it was approved. The gray paragraph is the item that would be the revised portion.
And that development costs would come from the developer that develops the Phillips property? 20.
Yes, so as you look at
So in the
this,
future, when that gets developed, the developer would pay.
the developer would,
time.
right after we get done with this road cost, the developer would reimburse us 50% of these through here.
And do you know when this is slated?
It just, a lawsuit was settled regarding the
Just got
property
settled.
after 15 years, 10 or
Yeah.
15 years, and they're ready to develop now.
Oh, wow.
So this project and fixing this S corner, I lived on that corner for 7 years in that farmhouse. And I can't tell you all the accidents, cars off the road and everything else. It's always been a safety hazard. And to see this get fixed is a big plus.
It scored very high on the safety rating. That's why we received the funds.
So I'll go ahead and make the motion that we authorize the mayor to sign the proposed revision to the North Logan Estates subdivision
So just,
development plan.
sorry, Craig, one question. So it's not in the agenda that the mayor is signing this. That's item number 5. So is the mayor signing both agreements? Do we need to authorize mayor's signature for both 4 and 5? Or are we
Yes.
just as the council approving the
Proposing
revision
the
to the
revision.
subdevelopment?
You can approve the revision, but the other parties have to sign it. And so
Either
the
way.
mayor signs it
Okay.
either way.
Okay.
I'll change my motion to either way.
I'll second either way.
Okay.
Yeah, they're fine. Yep.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I'm with you,
Yeah,
Bray.
let me change it. I propose that we revise the development plan to the North Logan Estates subdivision.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Craig, second by Joni. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. If you'll just come to the mic really briefly.
All the people on YouTube want to hear your voice.
Yeah.
On the mic.
Make sure to say your
My
name.
name is Karen Budge, and I am so for that little, what you just did. But I also have another question. You know, the new road, and I'm sorry, because I'm a country girl. I grew up in the country. I go by landmarks. So the new road that we just put in that went from east to west, that connected
3100.
16th to like 8th,
Yeah, 3,100.
it really is a hazard. The people that go east to west think that they have the right of way. And it's
Yeah,
just
I
kind
I
of,
agree.
if I
Same.
slow
If we
down,
need to
we're
switch the
good.
stop
I've
sign.
almost been hit. I go that road quite a bit, going to the golf course. And I've been almost hit several times.
And I think the intention is to change at least change the direction of the stop signs. Is that right?
That's,
No,
I know what you're going to say about
what-
speed control, but it's a nightmare.
What you would have right now, just associated with that or that
Yeah.
intersection is based
line
off the
of sight
engineering
is
study, east to west, it does slow people down because when we didn't have that there, they hit 30 to 40 miles per hour
Mhm.
just in general automatically. And now at least they're lower than that,
Mhm.
at least somewhat. But your concern is 100% valid. On that corner, it's a site issue, it's a right of
You
way
might want to just
issue.
make it a 4-way stop.
Yeah, the
And-
bushes, you can't see for the trees, the ones that are
I
going east
agree.
and west, and they just run right out there. I've had to slam on my brakes several times, and I don't know how many other people have had that same. And then I have one other question, and I don't know if it's a Hyde Park Road or a North Logan Road, and I think it's before you get to 3,100. It's right where the stop sign is on the 12th east as you're going north. past where I'm talking about to the end of that road and the road kind of goes up
So
and then
that's
it
Hyde
goes
Park.
down?
The four-way, yeah.
That's Hyde Park.
But before you get there, is it Hyde Park?
Yes.
He's kind of showing you that just that corner is North Logan.
But
And
the,
then-
but the 12th East Street, it's still 12th East.
A portion of it.
Yeah. up
That road
until-
is, it gets, the people that water there, the water comes down and that road is horrible. It's all broken up and
Oh,
So that's likely Hyde
that's,
Park.
I know
That's-
right where you're talking about. That
that's-
is in Hyde Park.
that's
Yeah.
and that's
county.
a Hyde Park issue.
Oh,
Oh,
it's
that's a
county.
county.
That's
Yes,
county,
county.
then Hyde Park. So just to straighten out, and then this intersection, just to point out one other thing, the development that we talked about tonight also improves that intersection as far as sight and other
Oh,
things.
right.
So the next step in that is a four-way intersection. It always goes two-way, four-way, and then you go to roundabout or
Yeah.
traffic light after that.
Okay, that was my comments.
Thank you.
letting
Thanks
me
for
make that
coming
comment.
tonight.
It's worse when school starts in a week, right?
Yeah.
That
Yes.
corner. So.
Okay, we will move on to the work session items. The first is updates regarding North Logan's water conservation efforts. Back at you, Jordan.
All right. So I was here just a couple weeks ago. As Alan mentioned earlier, our USDA site visit is scheduled. So we are on track with our USDA grant. This is when their engineers come out and some of their funders come out to look at our projects and what we have going on. We will revisit the conservation measures for this upcoming September to see if we will add another day to the watering schedule. With the cooler temps, usually demands go down accordingly. The USU audits and flume, we're looking towards that for next summer. They require a 3 to 4 week window to be able to do that. So with August tailing out or August in the middle, to get 4 weeks of average use was kind of tricky when we hit September. And then just a couple numbers. The July numbers were 20% lower. Go back up. Sorry, right there. So the July numbers were 20% lower use compared to 2021. That doesn't sound like a lot, but that accounts to 30 million gallons of water were saved in the month of July. So those are our updates for this month. Any questions?
That's great.
Good job. Yeah,
Seriously, everyone's
been
been really great this year.
for sure. Okay.
And it's the hottest July in 62
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, you can see it on
Yeah.
lawns this year. It's rough. But
Okay. I mean, we've kind of lost control of this. Will you just hop up and,
On the flip strip, does that mean change your park strip to?
it does, and that currently is, so the question is on Flip the Strip, is it changing your park strip over? Currently, that program is just for commercial users. So,
It'd be nice if there was no park strip at all. I've lived in cities where there's not, and you just have the sidewalk next to curb.
right.
And there's no park strip, and it's really nice.
Talk to your neighbors. That's not currently within, our purview, but yes, there are a lot of advantages to that. Did you have anything else to add to that, Jordan?
that's it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to updates on the Civic Center. Hit it, Alan.
I think we went over this at the beginning. It's really just that discussion regarding the lowering of costs. The final value engineering costs to make sure we're right there within those cost parameters for the city office, and we're basically there right now. It's fantastic work working with Lundahl to get it at that point. And then the other two items we're moving forward on is just some more designs regarding the community center, getting those squared away, some fundraising efforts. Hats off to all the different departments that helped out with all the fundraising efforts from Pioneer Day to
Do we have amounts on those at all?
Jesse would have those amounts. I know it's several thousand.
Linda, you don't have any idea, do you? Okay,
Hugely attended.
yeah.
Yeah, it was several thousand. That was the largest breakfast and largest charity barbecue we've ever had.
Okay, and thanks everyone for showing up to that. And also, I know Jim Gass is going to be sending around an email, just kind of getting everyone's input, everyone who's there, your input on what can be improved for that. I'd like to get that to the point where it's kind of a well-run machine so that we're not scrambling every year. But it was super helpful, I think, to have a city council presence, like to have everyone there was super impressive. So Sorry, I kind of cut you off, Alan. Was there anything else?
No, that's just the general updates right
Okay.
now.
All right, we'll move on to reports from city officers, boards and committees. We'll start with fire. Chief Hannig, do you want to give us a report? And while you're coming up, will you just speak to kind of what you experienced with the 24th holiday, how things went?
Yeah, I think we actually fared out fairly well considering the weather conditions, and we obviously made the change on 12th. There was probably a little more compliance issues, maybe than normal, out of dates, out of times. But as far as emergencies and responses, I believe we had one grass fire on Wolfpack Way. We had another fireworks related incident, but fairly minor, valley wide. So we felt we were pretty fortunate that we're able to escape considering we're in a drought conditions and so on and so forth. But we've been putting together on another note, we've been putting together a monthly report that we've been sending to you. We also did a quarterly report. I don't know if you noticed that. I just wanted to point out the fact that in there, which is kind of surprising, but not, that we had 2,400 hours, man hours of training over the last quarter. Now, to put that in perspective, that's a lot. I mean, it seems like a lot, right? But that's what we need to do. That's what part of that training chief position is going to help coordinate and maintain, because we need those training hours for certifications and for ISO rating. So we're a class 2 fire department, which allows, which does decrease your insurance rates dramatically. And so that plays a part, as well as response times that we talked about. Just to update with the call volume, we're still trending that 30% increase from this year to last year. However, July was flat. So last year comparatively was the same for volume of calls, which is a good thing. How that trend will go for the rest of the year will be interesting to see. Any questions?
I'm excited to see how that trends to our costs next year. Flat.
Well, really interesting enough as far as cost. I mean, obviously I did the numbers and there's no increase in yours, but there was, I believe we were about 27,000 short in our budget. But as I told Alan, we would go through our revenue because we do pay for those 3 paramedics. And I think we're about even right now, based on what collections have. Now, some of that balance still comes in over time. So we'll see how that goes. But I think we're doing good.
Great. Thank you, Chief. All right. Lieutenant Olson, any report from you? Yeah, this makes me concerned about our response times.
So no, as far as we're waiting on the chief thing, obviously, and then we did end up with 5 qualified applications today total. So we're gonna go through them and get the commission together and interview them. So
Okay, and my understanding is that things have gone smoothly as you've been interim chief. So thank you for that. That's a big deal for us.
yeah, do you have any questions for me?
Any
Do
questions?
you need anything?
How did the
National Night
yeah,
Out.
how'd that go?
Yeah, that was a hit. That was awesome.
Which is impressive given the weather.
Right. So I think they figured they had about 150 kids come through, and probably around 500 to 700 people total. But with the life flight, the police cars, the dogs, the dunk tank.
My kids got real good. So mayor better watch out for the
Yeah,
library.
my
closing
niece-
session.
They're
There.
disqualified, Emily.
Smoking the first time with the real life softball pitch. So yeah.
Wow. All right. Thanks so much. Okay. Spencer. And let us just say, this is maybe farewell for Spencer. So
That's just what I was going to come up and say. Just thank you to all the council. You've been great. This is probably my last city council meeting as the city planner. But the replacement coming in is going to be great. I'll do a little overlap with him, come back and help him there. I think you all have my personal cell phone number. I'll send out my email number. Feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to chat about anything and city code if you have any questions down the road. I don't think I'm going to get all the code out of my brain anytime soon. So I'd always be happy to help or anything else. So thank you.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you, Spencer.
Yeah, thank you, Spencer.
Thanks for the cookies. And we understand Alan is getting a gift back to you.
Yes.
So I don't know. Is that true?
One of the cookies.
He brought us the gift, you know, we're like, it's kind of backwards.
Alan will handle that. Okay, thanks so much, Spencer. All right, Jordan, Scott. Sorry, I'm jumping.
Just a reminder, the Utah League is coming up October 5th through the 7th. They don't have their volunteer activities or their walking activities online yet. So you can go in and take a look and sign up, just don't complete it. We'll see if they actually add any of those in the next 3 weeks. And then also, since our audit is coming up at the end of September, I need for each of you to go through and do the Open Meeting Act certification.
Will you send that
And
to us?
I'll send you a link.
Okay.
And if you'll do that, print out the certificate and then email that to me. I'll keep it for the auditor.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Jordan, nothing? Marie? I.
Alan,
Alan?
thanks. Appreciate it.
I just have my mayor's message. That's what
Okay,
she's-
okay.
Go ahead, Alan.
Jumping down through first, thanks to each of you for helping out with Pioneer Day. That was by far the most widely attended and beyond belief, the most widely attended in the valley. And I always point out these things, but hats off to the rec department too. That was done at a similar budget to other rec departments and about probably 10 times the amount of participation from the public in that. So just hats off to them for what they've done on a shoestring budget there and what you've done for volunteering the other staff members out of the city. Just things here, the photo contest, it ends August 15th. So just remind people, even if you post things or send out messages, just let them know that just turn in your photos before that time. There are major prizes with that. Police night out. Thanks everyone. Thanks police department, fire department, and public works and everyone else who helped out with that. That was fantastic. Library closing socials coming up. Dunk the mayor in clean water. And then Freedom Fest is coming up the 22nd through 29th.
I feel like we're gonna have to have a huge line after the truth and taxation hearing. Like, we should have rethought the timing of this.
We should have done it at the opening social.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyway, so the Freedom Fest is the one with the Vietnam replica wall, along with several other tributes to other conflicts that the U.S. has been involved in. Very well done item that's put together through our Parks Department that helps out significantly with the Cache Valley Veterans Association and other groups that come in to put that together. It's very well done, very well attended. It has a concert, and then there's a ride for the fallen, a motorcycle ride on Friday or Saturday morning. And then just remember Free Skate Night, August 25th. Those are the events the next couple months.
Okay. Ooh, shoot, we missed the fundraising for Noodles and Co tonight. I just realized that was today. Hopefully that
Ends at 9, so you have some time.
at 8, it says.
Oh, dang it.
Yeah. Okay, then with that, unless there's any updates or issues with the council, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion by Emily. I'm gonna give the second to Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes.
One time we were friends. All right, guys. Thank you.
So they were showing lights and.